do you guys know that the most important Big 12 football game of the season is coming up on Saturday at 11 o'clock? And I was like ready to come in with this take, and then I'll give a shout out to the guys at Heartland College Sports, because I was reading their week one primer just literally like 5 minutes before I was coming on the show here today, and I saw that they declared it the same. And I think that's because it is, right? Great minds and all that. Look, the Big 12 does not get many opportunities to shine on a truly national stage in college football anymore. Particularly now that we've turned the page beyond Texas and Oklahoma and you're starting this brave new world without them. There are not many opportunities for the league to do that, period. There won't be. You're going to get them at the end of the year in the college football playoff, but it may just be one every single year. I mean, we can have a pretty healthy discussion about if there is any kind of legitimate shot that the league is getting two in. So when you have Penn State, who is, probably, I guess, a tier 2 Big Ten school, you'd have Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon. And then beyond that, Penn State's probably at the top of tier 2 in the Big Ten, but close enough to the top. It's not often you get one of those teams coming in your building. And the timing of it matters too, because the only other game I would single out as like at least in the same type of stratosphere as this one for the Big 12 and opportunity is UCF at Florida. Problem there being, everyone's already written Florida off this year, especially if you go look at their schedule. It is nuts. But everyone's already written off Billy Napier in Florida, so there's not nearly as much respect for them as there is for Penn State. And that game is in the middle of conference season. So everybody will be paying attention to conference games, and there's not going to be very much focus on that one. There will be focus on Penn State, West Virginia, because it is in a week where it's non-conference games. And there are some big-ish games. Speaking of Florida, Florida, Miami, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, LSU, USC. Like, there are some big games, but it's not like a behemoth week. It's not like October 12th, for instance. If you want to go see the best week on paper on the college football schedule, go check out October 12th. It is not like that. So West Virginia needs to at least show well in this game. It cannot be like last year. And I know last year was not as lopsided as the final score would indicate. I've heard all the audio this week about people talking about the late touchdown that was scored by Penn State in that game. But man, if West Virginia could win, I mean, at the very least, play a really close competitive game. But if West Virginia could win, we'd go a long way toward getting the Big 12 some real respect here. Narratives are hard to fight, man. And the narrative right now is that, hey, Texas and Oklahoma are gone. This is the new era of college football where you've got the juiced up Big Ten, the juiced up SEC. Nobody else can compete. We already saw like Florida State stumbles out the blocks in the ACC. I guess maybe that's actually a better thing for the ACC, leftovers there that Georgia Tech won that game. So you can say, hey, the ACC, which is going to be fighting for its life, just got a big win with Georgia Tech beating Florida State, a team that, yes, is in their conference, but is clearly on the way out and eventually likely will be one of those schools that's in the Big Ten or the SEC. It's time for you to step up now, Big 12. You've got to go get your signature win. And this is like Penn State is coming to what will be a freaking raucous environment in Morgantown. Like, I wish I could be at that game, man. That is going to be – now, it sucks that it's not a night game. If that were a night game, I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better atmosphere in college football throughout the rest of the season. Because I know how much West Virginia fans want that. That's been the most entertaining single game that I've seen talked about throughout this offseason. It's West Virginia, Penn State, and some of the smack talk that is flying back and forth between those two. But this is a chance for respect. I'm not saying it solves all the Big 12's problems. It doesn't. I'm not saying it's going to make the Big 12 money. It doesn't necessarily do that. But one bit at a time, you've got to be competitive against schools of that ilk. I heard it from coach after coach at Big 12 Media Days in Vegas. We just have to win games at a high level. We've got to win these high-level games, and they're mostly referring to the postseason and the playoff when, yeah, there's going to be a ton of eyes on you. But this is a freebie. This is a free opportunity that you have. And how often will this come along? We don't really know. We don't really know. It's this year. It's like Oklahoma State plays Arkansas. UCF goes to Florida and Penn State comes to West Virginia, and that's about it. So process of elimination, you're pretty close there. West Virginia has been fueling this entire offseason with thoughts of disrespect, not respecting them enough. Neil Brown's mad that Garrett Green is not being respected enough in that ESPN top 100 college football players list. Go prove it. Go out and show it. West Virginia's had to listen to everybody talk about the schedule throughout the offseason. They're not it was a schedule-based 9-win season last year. Now it's getting tougher this year. That's all it was. Flash in the pan last season. Go prove it. Go prove it and do it for the league, West Virginia. The league needs a big, nice spoonful of respect. And the symbolism of it happening literally week 1 without Texas and Oklahoma would not be lost on me either. That is a very nice statement to make as you try and move on with life without the two teams that have been at the top of the league. And another element of like why you need to do this ties into a couple of other Big 12 games this weekend, really a handful of other Big 12 games this weekend, because there are plenty of Big 12 teams playing FCS opponents in week 1, which is very typical, right? We see that a lot. But I'm going to pull up a little tweet from myself last year. If you remember how the Big 12 non-conference portion of the schedule went last year, it did not go well. This was on September 16th, so like 3 weeks into the season. The Big 12 has losses to Miami, Ohio, Wyoming, South Alabama, Missouri, who I threw in as a joke, Texas State, Rice, and Ohio. Miami, Ohio, Wyoming, South Alabama, Texas State, Rice, and Ohio. That was not good. And we all remember the South Alabama game, right? Oklahoma State lost that by 26 points at home. That was 33-7. It was nuts. That hurts. That hurts the reputation and the narrative of the league. You cannot do that. You cannot be doing that anymore. It's not totally fair. You don't get a margin of error like some of these other leagues would, but that is just the reality that you have to live with, being the Big 12 and fighting every single day for your reputation. So the games that come to mind for that beyond, I mean, I see, like Al says, Lindenwood and Kansas, like, sure. I mean, Lindenwood, I can assure you, Kansas will not have trouble with Lindenwood. I'm not worried about that, but you can't. Colorado, listen to me. We got another Colorado story in the headlines this week about them trying to go after Oregon for supposedly cheating and trying to view, taking some of their practice video. They weren't able to prove it, like whatever. Another negative headline. Coach Prime doesn't want to have Sean Keeler asking questions. Just look at me. Do not lose to North Dakota State. Don't do this, man. Everybody pays attention to you for better or worse. Don't make it for worse right out of the gates here for the league. When I'm sitting here saying massive opportunity with West Virginia, Penn State, you can't screw it up on the back end also. And everybody go like, well, one of the few teams we really cared about in this league, they just lost at home to North Dakota State. Not even the same North Dakota State team that we saw that was the Chris Kleiman North Dakota State that won the national championship every year. They've taken a bit of a step back. I mean, they're still a very good FCS team, but South Dakota State is the dominant force. And on that note, Mike Gundy, I'm going to need you to pull up a seat as well. Mike, I don't know what this nonsense was last year against South Alabama. You're playing 3 quarterbacks. You're not giving Ollie Gordon the rock very much. Can we figure it out in time this year to not lose to South Dakota State? Because that is going to be a bitch of a game, man. That's a tough game. South Dakota State is the back-to-back FCS national champion. They are, in essence, now North Dakota State. After years of knocking on the door, they have broken through, and they are now that force. That is not an easy game for the Cowboys at all. I see Wet Blanket points out 29 straight. South Dakota State has won 29 straight games. They're not going to be scared coming into Stillwater, Oklahoma to play that game. So the Cowboys better be ready. And regardless of how many Power 4 teams South Dakota State would be capable of actually beating, if you're the Big 12 and you lose, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to respect the jackrabbit half of that. It's going to be another one of those marks against the league that goes up there on the chalkboard, just like Miami, Ohio, Wyoming, South Alabama, Texas State, Rice, Ohio, everything that happened last year. So can't have it happen. Can't have it happen, Big 12. Absolutely cannot happen this weekend. West Virginia needs to make it happen this weekend. Absolutely they do. Who else can we? Baylor. Listen, Dave Aranda, you took the play calling duties back on defense this year. You're calling the defense now. You got yourself a better quarterback, DeQuan Finn. Don't lose to Tarleton State, please. Do not lose to Tarleton State, please. Don't give us a redo of last year and the performance that you put together against Texas State. Can we not do that again? Let's not. Look, Chris Kleiman, you've obviously done a phenomenal job the last 3 years, but I have seen you lose at home to Arkansas State. Let's not mess around with UT Martin this weekend, okay? None of that. Matt Campbell, sometimes you're a very good coach, but sometimes at the beginning of the year, it seems like it was usually Northern Iowa. North Dakota is different than Northern Iowa, but let's not play with fire. Let's not play with fire in that game. Scott Satterfield, I'll be honest, I'm not totally sure. It seems like there are some better vibes around the program this year. I'm not totally sure what the hell last year was. Don't lose to Towson, please. Please do not lose to Towson. Who else needs a reminder? Joey, my guy. I rattled off Wyoming on that list. I know that was a weird road trip, and I don't know who the hell scheduled that game last year for you. It's different to be at home against Abilene Christian, but let's take care of business there. It's no more Wyoming starting the season 1-3. Joey, please. BYU, Kalani, you're not announcing your starting quarterback yet. You're going to pull the kind of Bill Snyder-esque, like not coughing up any injury information until the very last minute when the kid runs out there at quarterback. That's fine. That's totally fine. Let's not lose to Southern Illinois. Let's not do that. It's a big game. You want to be bowl eligible, keep your job this year, Kalani. Make sure the boys are ready to go there. Finally, this is not an FCS team. Wyoming's plenty good, as I just mentioned. I mean, they beat Texas Tech last year, but Arizona State, it would be nice. It would be very nice if you could beat Wyoming. That's a late game. People might be watching. That's a 9:30 kick on FS1 as you play Wyoming. Let's not lose that game. Let's get a little revenge on Wyoming. Okay, Arizona State, please. Kenny Dillingham. I like you. I like you a lot, actually, Kenny Dillingham. Let's not lose that game. So consider the league forewarned. I'm trying to prevent it from going down the same path that it went down last year, and I'm trying to get the league a chance to really elevate itself with a big win to help the narrative battle at the beginning of the year. Because part of the problem in all this was, like, Oklahoma State had a really good year last year. They won 10 games, won a bowl game against Texas A&M, put together a very nice season, made the Big 12 championship game, had a star player that drew a lot of attention. But everybody remembered the South Alabama game from the beginning of the year. It's a tough thing to shake. It won't matter as much in the college football playoff discussion anymore because you will easily be able to rebound in the Big 12. Just go win the league and you'll be fine. But everybody will still be saying, well, I don't know, man. This is still the Oklahoma State team. If you go one and done in the playoff, you win the league, go one and done in the playoff, I'll just say, well, it wasn't that good. That was not that good of a team. They lost by 26 to South Alabama at the beginning of the year. You get that margin for error. You got to be on your toes more.